Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well out there. Today I want to talk about synthetic fuels and the fact that no, for motorcycles and cars, this will not be the answer for the majority. Maybe a minority, but not the majority. And it's very easy to know why that's going to be the case now, with no politics and no opinions. It's just facts. Now I'm going to get onto that in a minute, but first I do need to talk about some politics and opinions and the reason that this video came up. So if you're interested in just the synthetic fuel part, skip forward till you see a dot in this corner, and then I'm going to be doing that bit. Okay, so first things first. As I say, I made a video last week talking about the proposed ban on 125cc internal combustion engine bikes and 50cc's. They're proposing to ban these 5 years earlier than all the rest of the bikes, i.e. 2030 rather than 2035. Now, the MCIA made an argument for us against electric bikes, saying that we should keep the petrols for that 5 years longer. My point of my video was that the reasons that they gave weren't good reasons. They weren't truthful, they weren't the best arguments to say why we shouldn't be banning 125cc internal combustion engines just yet. You can't stop something happening by giving bad arguments. There are better arguments to be made. Now, there is something slightly scary about this video, which is that it's got like 16,500 views, 750 likes, something like that, and a 94 and a bit% like to dislike ratio. So, most of the people watching this video are fairly positive about what I was saying. Thank you very much. The comments, however, are the exact opposite. The 5% who have disliked it are the ones who have commented on it. There is a lot of politics in there, there is a lot of opinion in there, there's a lot of misinformation in there, a lot of parroted old information in there. And one of the things that kept coming up was synthetic fuel. Why are we going to go to using these nasty, disgusting, horrible batteries if we can just use synthetic fuel? And then people would proclaim to say, well, I'm not getting electric, I'm just going to wait for synthetic fuel. I'm now going to talk about how synthetic fuel is made and why it is not going to replace batteries. This is talking from science, not politics. This is talking from facts and truths that you can go and check, not opinions. So just know that. This is one of the big problems we have in this world, is that people don't get that science and fact overrides opinion. And if you haven't researched it to know why you know the science and the fact of a subject, and you're just using opinion, then you're probably going to be wrong on that subject, as many people are. And as I say, let's not get into it. BEVs, which are battery electric vehicles, electric cars, power from the grid, into the battery, into the motor, into the wheels, go. So now we're going to talk about synthetic fuels. So we start with power from the grid. Yes, synthetic petrol is made with electricity. Oh, and it's going to get so much worse when you realise how this is actually made. As I say, if you don't know this and you thought synthetic fuels were going to be the future, you're now going to realise why you've basically been lied to. So you take power from the grid, and then what you have to do is apply that to H2O, otherwise known as water, and you perform electrolysis on that, and that will give you 2 hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom. You may note that it's the exact same method that they make hydrogen for hydrogen-powered vehicles. Another suggestion, like synthetic fuels, and for the exact same reason, hydrogen is also not going to be an option in the applications that we are talking about, but it will be possibly an application in planes and larger vehicles, as will synthetic fuel. And I'll get on to why that is as we go on. So we've got power from the grid, water, creating 2 hydrogens and an oxygen atom. Now we need power from the grid. Oh yes, again, because we need to collect CO2, as in carbon dioxide. You then have to do processes on that to turn it into carbon monoxide, and you lose an oxygen atom in that process. Then what you do is you have to combine the hydrogen and carbon, and you put it into a Fischer-Tropsch, I think that's how it's pronounced, reactor, which basically is going to convert those into long-chain hydrocarbons, which is the same as, or very similar to, crude oil. So you basically get the equivalent of crude oil. Then you take that and you have to refine it. So now we've got our e-fuel. Then you put that in a tanker, and then you drive and take that to a station, and then that goes into a car. Then, when that goes into the car, you have efficiency losses through heat loss and through sound and mechanical losses of the internal combustion engine and the drivetrain, you know, the transmission, all of that, all equates to energy loss. So we either put the electricity in a battery and then it goes to a motor and it goes to the wheels and we go, or we have to go through all of this process to make an e-fuel. What this basically leads to is that synthetic fuels are between 8, I did read before 6, but apparently it's more close to 8 these days, 8 and 18%. I believe diesel is around 7%. BEVs, 40 to 70%. And this is why it would be incredibly dumb of us to make synthetic fuel to make a car go when we could have just put it in the battery. Yes, this is a lithium battery currently. Lithium may not be the battery technology we use in the future. In the next 6 years or so, roughly 5-6 years, we should start seeing solid state batteries coming in. They still use lithium, to my understanding. However, they are much, much more efficient, much better, more compact, you can get more miles, it solves a lot of the problems. You also don't have the same energy losses that you do with synthetic fuels and internal combustion engines, in the sense of, yes, they get hot, but not that hot. They don't make any noise, which people don't like, but equally that saves you energy. See, this is the thing, when you learn about physics and stuff, you realise that the power that goes in from the petrol in a car, when it comes down to it, how much of that energy turns the wheels is massively less than you think it would actually be. Now, obviously, because you've got electricity going in, if this is a net zero, you know, renewable source, technically the fuel that you get out of it is also a renewable fuel. You're not adding any more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere because you're taking renewable electricity and using carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and water, and you know that is actually a clean way of doing it, but it's so inefficient compared to them that you are like wasting 4 times as much of your renewable energy. So it's better to go with BEVs. Now, this is not to say that synthetic fuels don't actually have a place, and they absolutely do. If you do have a renewable energy creating system, whether that be solar or wind or whatever, and you have a surplus of electricity, you can't store it because storing electricity is difficult in batteries. It's just, you know, you can understand the issue there. So what you can do is, in places they have, you know, like the sunshine belt around the world, basically on the equator, where they can have an awful lot of solar, you can convert your excess electricity into synthetic fuels. You know, use that power, that excess, to create this, so we save that. So it's, although it's a lot less efficient than this, it was never going to get used in this. So obviously we're having a talking here about, you know, having more power than we need, even though everyone says about how we haven't got enough power. Depends on what country you're looking at, depends on blah, 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 but of course they are planning to increase this in the future as needs are increased, although I can totally understand the point of view, which is, are they ever going to get to that position? As I've said before, the sooner we get over Chernobyl and realise that it, well, to me, not using nuclear power, basically because Chernobyl, because that's what everyone thinks of when you say nuclear power, is the equivalent of saying we should not drive cars because someone bought a 25-year-old Honda Civic and put it on a dyno without ever doing anything to it and just ragged it. That is literally the equivalent. Would you say you shouldn't drive on the basis that someone blew up a Civic on a dyno? No. Now, where would you use that synthetic fuel? If you used it in a car instead of a BEV, you're throwing that energy away. However, if you put that into something which must still run on a fuel, like a fossil fuel, and this includes planes, because obviously the batteries just make the planes too heavy, so you can't have electric planes. You can have electric planes, big scale, doesn't really work out. Large equipment like lorries and buses and equipment, commercial equipment that has to be used all of the time, such as JCBs. You know, some plant equipment will be running for 18 hours a day. The idea that you could use electric ones for those is just preposterous. And that is the exact reason why JCB are going down the line of using hydrogen-powered internal combustion engines. They know they're not as good as electrics, but the point is they're going to be a lot cleaner than the alternative, but still have the ability to quickly refill the machine so it can continue to run. Same way the synthetic fuels can allow those planes and plant equipment to continue to run using carbon neutral sources, but it's not something we can produce at such an amount that everyone could use it, because it's so inefficient. And that's it. It's not politics, it's not left, it's not right, It's science. It's just facts, figures and numbers. This is why electric is going to be the future, because we can't keep using fossil fuels. I mean, now we're going to get into a climate change debate, and I'm not even going to get into that. Of course, they can sell you this is a liquid replacement for petrol, which is carbon neutral. They just didn't tell you how incredibly inefficient it was compared to using batteries. They're saying that the development of synthetic fuel and like it being a good stage is probably not expected till 2050 or later. We're going electric. It's gonna happen. And I'm just going to make it clear, because every time this happens, people go off and on about it, and I'm probably not going to solve that. The comments have been filled with the same old stuff, but you will be allowed to continue to use your petrol bikes as long as you like after that ban. It's just a ban on new sales. How much petrol's going to cost at that point? That's another question. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It will help it be seen by more people. And if you want to help support this channel, and it is only possible through this, please consider doing that through Patreon. Links in the description. There are many benefits to that. Check it out. Bye-bye.